The design of the laptop looks quite understated, while it does have some branding accents to it, considering that it's only available in this grey color option, and having had a look at its elder sibling, the Legion 7i in its all-white glory, I can't help but notice a lack of personality here. The top lid is encased with anodized aluminium, and the bottom is mostly a hybrid of polycarbonate and ABS plastic. But at 16 inches and a weight of about 2.4 kilograms or around 3.2 with its charger included, that heft adds up quite quickly. While the flat design does help a bit, I feel it might struggle to find a place in most backpacks. The hinge feels quite smooth and supports the screen well and allows it to lay completely flat. There's also a bevel on the lid to make it easier to open the laptop one-handed. The display on my unit is a 1600p 240Hz G-Sync compatible and color-calibrated IPS panel. And while it certainly isn't an OLED, the color accuracy alongside the Display HDR 400 certification make it a joy to consume content or appreciate breathtaking visuals in some of the best games available. Indoors, I mostly find myself setting its brightness around 85%, and with that extra brightness combined with the semi-matte coating, the display stays fairly visible outdoors. The keyboard is alright. I can see myself tapping for hours as the travel feels decent and the keys have some tactility to them, but they do feel a bit soft to type on. It also has 4-zone RGB lighting and some effects you can play around with via software. The trackpad is sized adequately and gestures work just fine as it does have Windows Precision drivers. The coating could be a bit better as I do feel a slight resistance every time I try to make a gesture with the slightest amount of moisture on my fingers. The speakers sound quite good with an ample amount of bass and loudness, and I'd suggest using the included Nahimic software to enhance the sound quality, as without it, they just don't get loud enough. It's also best to keep it on music mode as the default smart mode tends to switch presets randomly, which can be pretty jarring when multiple apps are running at the same time. The port selection on this, though plenty, is a bit surprising. On the left, you have one USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port, two USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C ports, and a headphone jack. And on the right, we have two more USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports, a microSD card slot, a camera privacy switch, and a gigabit Ethernet port. And at the back, we have an HDMI 2.1 port and the charging port. These ports have small indicators on them, so you can easily slot in the cables without having to turn the laptop around. The lack of USB or Thunderbolt 4 on this laptop is a bit strange, especially considering that it has a flagship 14th Gen Intel chip which can easily support it. Not to mention, the absence of a full-sized SD card slot on a 16-inch laptop gives me a reason to keep my dongle around. All of these USB ports also have the always-on functionality, which means you can use them to charge devices even when the laptop is powered off. This feature can be turned on or off via software, but while it does work with the USB-A ports, it doesn't with the Type-C ports. Meaning, if you have external hubs, docks, or just have your phone or any other device plugged in for charging, you'd have to disconnect them once you're done using the device to avoid unnecessary battery drain. Now this laptop has quite a lot of variants. With these amount of options, you would think that there must be a ton of variants for this device, offering a lot of choice for everyone, and you wouldn't be wrong in saying that. But the downside to this is that when faced with countless possibilities, we often find ourselves stuck in a loop of comparison, unable to commit to a single option and haunted by the fear of missing out on something better. So while I get Lenovo's approach here, I think it might be better to streamline this to avoid confusion for all consumers. Pricing and availability can vary, but all I can say is to not pay full price for this device, because on Lenovo's website, this laptop retails for around $1,900, and that is for the variant with the inferior display option. I got my unit from B&H for $1,350 in December last year, and right now it's selling for around $1,450. As mentioned previously, my unit has the i9-14900HX and an RTX 4070, and it works quite well while editing videos or gaming. Lenovo's Vantage software provides you with preset options that determine how the integrated and dedicated GPUs would behave in a given situation. There are 4 options to choose from, and for these tests I'd be using the dedicated GPU mode, as that connects the native display directly to the NVIDIA graphics by passing the integrated graphics, increasing performance and reducing latency. Vantage also allows you to adjust the fan profiles. There are a couple of options to choose from, and the shortcut function Q makes it easy to cycle between them when on the go and is reflected immediately via the indicator light on the power button. The software also allows you to overclock your GPU, which in my opinion isn't as helpful as this system has quite a good thermal performance, and overclocking it might just introduce unnecessary problems in the long term. Vantage could also use a visual and functional overhaul. Compared to most of the proprietary software, it just looks quite dated. I've been using an open source application called the Legion Toolkit lately, and it has completely replaced Vantage for me. It provides all the same features as Vantage, whilst providing added functionality. The one that I find the most interesting is the Actions tab, which allows you to set custom settings and assign them based on whether your device is plugged in or not. This includes automatically changing your refresh rate, resolution, scaling, turning on or off keyboard backlighting, changing the fan profile to performance or quiet mode, changing the GPU mode to use the dedicated or integrated GPU, and a whole lot more. Honestly, it seems to be much better than Vantage in all regards. Now, Lenovo is seemingly working on bringing the Legion Space app to its gaming laptops, so hopefully that visual redesign brings added functionality. But as it stands, the Legion Toolkit is simply much better. The Legion also has a pretty stacked BIOS. You have a ton of options to tinker around with. Some of the ones I'd recommend enabling would be Memory Enhance, that improves memory stability, or the option to enable undervolting the CPU via Vantage. With the kind of power in the i9 and from the benchmarks conducted, it's quite clear that it crushes every single task at hand, indicating that if you're someone with a mostly CPU-intensive workload, this system does not disappoint. In most competitive titles tested, it performs really well, as again, most of these games at lower competitive settings create more CPU-bound scenarios, which we can take advantage of here. The laptop also handles most AAA titles fairly well, some even with ray tracing enabled, barring the newer ones that require the use of DLSS optimization techniques like super resolution or frame generation to get a playable experience. Now, whether that is due to lack of game optimization on the developer side of things, or product tiering and positioning on Nvidia's end, is a debate for another day. But suffice to say, the thermal headroom on this device allows the i9 to sustain its performance over a longer duration. Credit where credit's due, DLSS presentation has improved significantly over the past year, especially with the recent DLSS 4 update, improving algorithms for upscaling and also addressing the latency and VRAM issues that affected frame generation. Getting inside the laptop is quite straightforward. All the screws share the same length, and I didn't face any hassle prying the panel. In terms of upgrade options, you have two 16GB of DDR5 5600MHz RAM here, with support for up to 64GB if the need arises, two PCIe Gen 4 drive slots, both supported by thermal padding installed on the bottom panel, and the Intel AX211 Wi-Fi card. And with the kind of power in the i9, the only aspect that this laptop lacks in is its battery life. It delivered a screen on time of just about 4 hours and 45 minutes, and that was during a YouTube playback test. If you think lowering resolution or capping the i9's performance is going to help, it will only get you so far. This could have been much better had they provided the 99.9 Wh battery found on the Legion 7i. But for my workloads, it hasn't really been a problem, as I mostly use it plugged in. But it is something to keep in mind about if you are someone who may need to carry it around. On the flip side though, using the rapid charge feature in Vantage charges the laptop up to 50% in just 15 minutes, and a full charge takes slightly less than an hour. Vantage also allows you to use different modes promoting long-term preservation of the battery, such as options to cap the charging limit to 75% or using the overnight battery charging feature, which will charge it up to 75% when plugged in at night and finish charging to 100 by the time you use it in the morning. Lately, there's also been a lot of drama surrounding the Intel HX chips that I'd like to address. It all started a couple of months back when Intel's desktop CPUs, specifically the i9 13900 and 14900K, faced instability issues due to high voltages, leading to crashes and potential long-term damage to the chips themselves. While Intel addressed this for these desktop chips, questions arose about their high-performance laptop chips, the HX series specifically, as they shared the same architecture. Now, while Intel insisted these mobile processors were safe from these issues, user reports told a different story. Some HX chips were seen hitting alarming voltage levels, mirroring the desktop problems. Soon enough, reports followed of devices from other manufacturers facing similar issues. This sparked concerns amongst new users and potential buyers for practically any devices with these chips regarding long-term reliability and stability. As it stands, several laptop manufacturers, including Lenovo, have rolled out BIOS updates with microcode patches from Intel to address these issues. These updates aim to limit voltage spikes above a certain threshold as a precautionary measure and is seemingly catered to CPUs that were stable from the get-go. Meaning, if your processor was facing instability issues previously, this update wouldn't technically fix them, as it perhaps already went through degradation. Rather, it's meant to address those that are currently stable to prevent them from evoking any issues in the future. There were largely 3 patches that were rolled out over a period of time. One in June, another in August, and the last one in October of last year. With Intel now seemingly done handling it on their end, it was up to laptop manufacturers to push updates with these patches. The rather interesting part here is that some have pushed version 129, released in August, and others have pushed the newer version 12B from October, Lenovo falling in the former lot. Now both these patches were meant to resolve these voltage spikes, so if you have the former, it shouldn't really be a problem as all the tests I conducted was on that version. It's just that the 12B patch has been out for a couple of months now, and while I received 2 BIOS updates since I got my device in December last year, I haven't received an update with the latest patch as of now. After further research, I found a Reddit post with a guide on how to install this microcode patch on laptops with these HX processors. You just have to run 2 bat files as an administrator and make sure visualization and VTD settings are disabled in BIOS. And voila, new patch installed. From a consumer perspective, I get it. This is frustrating because most users just want a device that works reliably from the start. They don't expect to deal with potential instability, immediate BIOS updates, or the hassle of repairs and returns. Nor are they comfortable with technical terms like voltage spikes or microcode patches, and shouldn't need to become an impromptu tech expert to resolve the issues of their new laptop. All they expect is a hassle-free plug-and-play experience that doesn't disrupt their daily lives or work schedules. Now, keeping all that aside, the only ray of hope I can provide is that I've been using this laptop as a desktop PC for the past 3 months for about 4 to 8 hours every day, editing and gaming mostly, and I haven't faced any stability issues so far. If you're still concerned about potential issues in the long term, I'd suggest you to look at the 2025 Legions or other laptops with AMD's HX line of processors, as they'd offer similar performance whilst also alleviating any stress about long-term stability. So final thoughts. The Legion 5i is a bit of a mixed bag, which is a bit sad to hear as on the surface, this laptop is just a pure workhorse of a machine. It's got a great build, a stunning display, a decent selection of ports, good thermal performance and upgrade potential. While my experience so far has been nothing short of satisfactory, due to concerns regarding HX chip longevity, whether or not to make a recommendation here is a bit challenging. Now mind you, this is more of an Intel problem rather than a Lenovo one, and while this is seemingly fixed, whether or not it is completely resolved is a story only time can tell. These devices will also be discounted the closer we get to summer, and people would be tempted to get them, as paying a premium for Nvidia or Intel's newer offerings may or may not be worth it. All I can say is that if you get this device, ensure that the microcode patch is updated to its latest version. That being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.